So here's our second week of teachings here. I was thinking, start each week with giving a quotation. It's always nice for motivation and things like that. So some of you might know this quotation. It's from the Lalita Sutra, which is the biography of the Buddha. So it's Sisa mirak namke donke drin dandra drowe kechi garla tartang sum drowe tsedro namke lokdra de visabaptru shindu nikok dro. So the three worlds are impermanent, like autumn clouds, and the birth and death of beings is like watching a dance. The passing of life is like clouds, is like lightning in the sky, like waterfall off a steep cliff, swiftly it passes by. So it's good to reflect on these things again when we have time. Somebody was just mentioning today that we have, if you think about 3 months ago in this house, we have half as many people now as we had 3 months ago. So that's what happens. There's also one less person here in the teaching that was here last week. So that's perhaps the advantage of staying here many years. Is if you stay in one place, sometimes you can notice impermanence. If you're always moving around, then sometimes it doesn't come so obvious. There's also a saying in Western cultures, I don't know where it originally came from, that you might know, a rolling stone gathers no moss, right? If you know what I mean? So a stone, what moss is like the green that grows on stones and on the pavement. So if you have a stone that's just rolling down the hill, and there's no moss is going to grow on it. So the point being that if you keep kind of changing your direction in life, then you don't really gain any foundation and grow something meaningful. So it's very beneficial to stay here a long time, and then you see the changes that go by, and people come in and out, and life is always changing. Eventually, none of us will be here. Maybe someone else will be here, we hope, in the future to carry it on. And also I thought to mention, because I didn't mention last week, but it's good to do this when you give a teaching on LAM.RIM, any text. So you know where I received this teaching. So when I first came to Sera, I think end of August in 2006, then I was very fortunate. Just 2 months later, my teacher, Rinpoche, started giving the oral transmission of Tsongkhapa's collected teachings. So we had that over a course of 2 years. So I was fortunate to receive all of that from him. So that included, of course, the LAM.RIM.CHE.MO. And then also His Holiness gave the LAM.RIM teachings for 4 years, 2012 to 2015, I believe. And I was very fortunate to attend all of that. So that included LAM.RIM.CHE.MO also, as among some other texts. And then we've had the teachings, as I mentioned, from the different abbots, right? From Khen Rinpoche Losang Pelden when I first was here, and then Khen Rinpoche Losang Delek, who's still here now, fortunately, and then Khentin Chipel, some of you know, another example of impermanence. He became abbot. This was the year I was actually sick, so I wasn't there. I was here in the house, but he came to give the LAM.RIM teaching, his first LAM.RIM teaching as Khenpo, and then he died soon thereafter. So these things happen. So I didn't attend any of his teachings, unfortunately. But then we had the previous abbot, who we call Lawa Gusho. Most people call him Lawa Gusho, but his name is also Jampa Chuzang Rinpoche, or Logon Rinpoche. Logon, I think, is the name of the reincarnation lineage, and then Jampa Chuzang is probably his given name in this life. So yeah, we received the LAM.RIM.CHE.MO, a lot of it from him, and now from Ken Tashi Sedar, who's giving it. So I've been fortunate to go through it. Although honestly, to me, what changed my mind, I don't say it changed my mind, I can't say my mind has changed that much, but affected my mind the most, more than receiving any of those teachings, was going to debate and then debating these subjects, and then as you have time reading the relevant section of the LAM.RIM.CHE.MO. Because then you really think about it. You were thinking about it in the context of your debate topic, and you really delve into the point. It's not just hearing it, and of course you have to meditate on it later, but it gives a really strong imprint of, and you remember the text, and you'll probably notice, so we're going through the introductory parts now, and I've read through them a few times, but doesn't feel very familiar. But when we get to some of the later sections, like Four Noble Truths and Bodhicitta, then it's like there's a sense of I've read through this many times, and I kind of know where everything is and what page it's on. So that's the real benefit of doing this in debate. Okay, so let's start where we left off. I think it was here, but we had the quotation from Nakso Lotsawa, right? From the 80 verses praise of Atisha, and then we have the Nyunden Niepetsu, right? The way he found those qualities. So we had first how he came from a noble lineage, right? So Rik Punsum Sopa Niepetsu, right? How the way he found a noble lineage, and then Nyunden Niepetsu. So we have what is it? Dampo Zepa. Yeah, so the second is how he found those qualities. Oh, here it is. Rik Punsum Sopa Kewa Shipetsu. So the way he was born into a noble family. Then we had Den Dela, so on that human basis, how he found quality in the Nepitsul, and then Nyene, Dembala Chawa Zepitsul, the way he enacted the purpose of the teaching once he found those qualities. So we've reached number 2, right? Nyene Nepitsul, that has 2. Mondu Kiempa, Lungi Yun Nepitsul. So the way that he heard many, or actually Mondu Kiempa, so the way that he knew much, but then Lungi Yun Nepitsul, the way that he found. It actually should say Nondu Tupa. I'm surprised it says Mandu Kempa. Maybe it should say Mandu Tupa, the way he heard many teachings, right? With Lungi Yundan, the way that he found the qualities of the scriptures. And then Sul Shindu Drupar, so the way that he actualized that in accordance with the teachings. And then Dupar in the Nipitsus, the way that he found qualities of realization. So Damboni, right, first of all, from the praise to him by Naksu and Dopale, Loni Nishutsachik na, so when he was 21, Gyutsel Drupju Sabshitang. So the 64 arts of arts, I guess you could say, 64 arts, Gyutsel, Drupju Sabshitang, Sui Neni Tamchetang. So all the qualities of craftsmanship. So in ne, right? Ne is rikne, right? A discipline. And so in this context is like artisan work. And the Lekbar Jawe Ketani. So Lekjar is Sanskrit, right? Lekjar Ke. So Lekbar Jawe Ke means that he studied the Sanskrit language. And then Sema Kuna Kipala. So then also in Sema, right, the reasoning. Sema Kuna Kipala. So he became a proficient in all of those. Shezum Patar. Nierchi Sunla. So when he just was about to become 21. Chiwatang Nampe Rikpe Ne, so the points of the Buddhist and non-Buddhists. Tun Moa Dra Tang Tensik Rikpa. Right, so the common to both Buddhists and non-Buddhists, the Dra is grammar in this case, grammar and logic, Tensik. Se Tang So Rikpa Shi, so then artisanship and medicine. So those are there's the 5 disciplines we say that it's talked about in the Mahayana Sutra Lamkara, right? Dodigyan in Tibetan, which talks about the 5 disciplines. So these 4 plus Buddhism is the 5th one. So Shila Zhangwei, so he trained in those. Kepe Pudu Chimpagirde, he became a great scholar, or a perfected scholar. Kepardu lo nga shepetse, so chonga shepetse. So especially when he turned 15, riktik sarchik sende. So he heard, it must be the drop of reasoning by Dharmakirti, riktik. So he heard it one time. Sarchik senbe, chirupe dogewa kepa drakpa utapashik. So of someone who was renowned as a logician of the non-Buddhist schools, Tang Tsepe. So he was debating with this non-Buddhist. Sepe de Pampra Zepe Nyempe Drakpa. So he defeated him, and then Nyempe Drakpa. He became very famous. Nyempe Drakpa Kundu Gizo She Drolunpa-CHE.MO Zungso. So Drolunpa-CHE.MO, I mentioned last week, the author of the LAM.RIM.CHE.MO. That's the text that was previous to LAM.RIM.CHE.MO, the earlier Tibetan text. So he says this, talks about this story. Dene ri nakpo tsukla kangi neljuki wangchuk. So then the great yogi of the temple of the monastery, could be monastery of the Black Mountain. Belgi dorje shel zigjing. So he directly saw him. Pel ke I see. Bel ke dorje. Ke dorje is Hebadra. Bel ke dorje. So it was the great yogi who was a yogi of Hebadra. He saw him directly, or maybe he saw. Okay, I think it means that this yogi had a direct vision of Hebadra. This yogi that Atisha met had a direct vision of Hebadra. Dorje Kandra me lung dempatope lama. So that he was a lama who had been prophesied by many in Dorje Kandrama, right? The Vajradakini, or it could also mean that Dorje Kandrama is a tantra. It's a commentarial tantra on the Hiruka. So maybe that he was prophesied in that tantra. Lama Rahula. So Lama Rahula Gupta. Rahula Gupta. So in Tibetan, Rahula Gupta would be, what is it? Drachen Bepa. Rahula Gupta Wang Yonsu Zoberjujing. So he received a complete empowerment from him. Tenzin, so his secret name, Yeshe Sanwe Dorje. Shechawatakte, so he's given the name Yeshe Sanwe Dorje, so secret Vajra of wisdom. Gonglo Nir Gu Sunchela, so when he was just about 29 years old, or until he was 29, Wonder Nyepe Lama Tume Chengar, so in the presence of many lamas who had achieved siddhis, realizations. Chengar, Dorje Tekpala Jambe, he practiced the Vajrayana. Shung Tang Tamngak Malupala Kipagirde, so he became a scholar in all the texts and instructions. Sangagala Ngani Keso Nimdu Gompajuna. So when he thought, I've become a scholar in secret mantra. Dakima Namgi Nagi Lekbam Ngar Matawa Ngar Tomanya Mompo Nelam Ditene. So many, probably Dakima is probably Dakini. Right? Many of them in his dream, they showed him many texts of secret mantra that he had not previously seen. Tukyala Chako. So then his Tukyal is his pride. It's the honor for pride. Chak. So his pride was broken because he saw all these texts that he had never seen before. So dene Lamatang Gidam Nangi Nutang Milam Chidik Barabdu Chungna. Tempatan do mobo petla pempa Gachempo Jungwa Gyuela Tene. So Gyuela, they encouraged him that many lamas and yidams, right? They said in his both knew, like actually, and in his dream. Chudikpa, so one or the other. Some of them actually, some of them in his dream. Rabdu Jungna. So if you become a monk, right? Rabdu Jung. So it looks like he wasn't a monk yet. He was just studying tantra. So Rabdu Jungna, Tempatang, Joro Mabola, Pempa Gachempo Jungwa. So there'll be great benefit for the teachings and for sentient beings. So on that basis, they then from the praise to him, Kyugi Kempo Jorlampa, Yimpa, Kuna, Rabdu Drak, Shejungwatar. So that's talking about his teacher who gave him ordination. So he was a Jorlampa. He had achieved the path of preparation. Yimpa Kuno Rabdudra. So he is renowned as that way. So Pelchen Depe Neden. Dua Zimpa Chimple. Shila Rakshita Shechawa Joy Langide Konaniki Chok Chikl Shupe. So this quotation here is in Umechido, right? The general meaning of Madhyamaka. Because it's could be seen to be saying something odd. He was a Mahasamgika, Pelchen, which means it's a Hinayana school, Pelchen Depe Neden, right? He was a elder, Duazimpa, a great holder of the Vinaya, Shila Rakshita. Right, what's that? Shila Rakshita would be Sutram. Sutram is Shila, and then Rakshita I think is like Chokyong. I'm not actually sure. Shila Rakshita Shechawa Joy Lamgi de Konanigi Chok Chikla Shupe. So he'd entered into one part of the Jorlam, the path of preparation. Shupe Tingi Zin Nyepa Shikla. So he'd found a concentration, a realization that had entered into one part of the Jorlam. I think it's talking about I can't remember the Konanigi Chok Chik. I think because Konani is emptiness, right? So to one part, I think the idea is that in the stages of the Jorlam, you progressively realize different aspects of emptiness in terms of emptiness of object, emptiness of subject, and emptiness of contaminated phenomena, and emptiness of pure phenomena, things like that. So he'd achieved one part of that. Kempo, so he was the abbot. He acted as his abbot. Kempo Zeni Rabujung. So the reason this quotation is quoted in Umechidon is that it says that he was a Mahasamgika, he was a Hinayanist, but he also realized emptiness. So how can that happen? So then somebody argues, well, it shows that you don't have to be a Prasangika to realize emptiness. And Chetsupa says, no, that's misreading it. He was a Vinaya holder of the Mahasamgika. It doesn't mean he was a tenet holder of the Mahasamgika. Because actually, all of us in the Tibetan lineage were Vinaya holders of the Mulasavastivardhan system, right? But it doesn't mean we hold the Mulasavastivardhan tenets. It's a different function. What belief system you hold versus what philosophical system you adhere to versus what lineage of vows you hold. So he was a lineage holder of these vows, but he didn't necessarily accept the tenets of that school. And also, so we see Atisha was Mahasamgika. Some of you might know this story that when he was in Tibet, they asked him for ordination, but Atisha refused to give ordination in Tibet because he said that there's already the Mulasavastivardhan has spread here. It's very confused in India because there are all these different lineages of ordination. We don't want that to happen in Tibet, so we just want one lineage of ordination. So I'm not going to spread the Mahasamgika system in Tibet. So Tsenian Pel Marmedze Yeje She Dakso, right? So they gave him the name Pel Marmedze or Dipamkara Shinjana. Dene Lo Sumsusa Chiki Bardu, so just till he was 31. So he ordained 29. That's actually a little bit older than some of the other people that we read about. So at the age of 31, or until he was 31, Seneki Tekpe Nangorikpe Denu Gongok Namla Jangshing. So he studied all of the upper and lower Pitikas, right? So meaning Hinayana and Mahayana, in terms of the Teniki Tekpa, which is Parchingi Tekpa, right? The exoteric teachings, non-tantric teachings. So it looks like until he was 29, he was studying Tantra. Then he came back to the monastery and studied the sutra system. So Kepardu, so especially Chedakdu, Shepa Chempo La, Lama, Dhammarakshite Chengar. So the same one is, we had Rahula, but yeah, what's it? Dhammarakshita was his abbot, Shilarakshita. So Dhammarakshita is different. All right. So from the great expounder of that, the Chedakdu Shepa Chempula, or maybe it means the Chedak Shezu Chemo. It's a particular text, right? You may be talking about that. Lama Dhammarakshita Chengar, what is it? Oden Tabu Rear Loni Chuni Senso. So he, in the mountain of Uden, for 12 years, he was listening to teachings from him, from Dhammarakshita. Probably the author of the Peacock and the Poison Grove. That's written by Dhammarakshita, Mind Training. So then Sawe De Shi Shungla Shindu Kepe, so he became a great scholar in the Sawe De Ji, at the four main texts. So it's probably let's see. I'll check the footnote here. Sawe De Shi. So Odante is Odante Puri. That's right. Odante Puri, I mentioned, is the other monastery, Odante Puri. Yeah, the four basic schools. Okay, it's not the four basic. So Dawade Shi is this. It's the Tamche Yoparmawa, Pelchen Depa, Nedempa, and Mankorwa. So those are the four. We have the 18 Nikaya schools, right? So we talk about the 18 Hinayana schools, and they all fit into four divisions. So there's the Tamche Yoparmawa is Savastivardhan, and then there's the Mahasamgika I mentioned, that's Pelchempa, and then Theravada is Stavira in Sanskrit, but Theravada nowadays, that's Nedempa, and then Mankorwa, I forget the Sanskrit name for that. So that's the fourth of those. So those are the 18 schools of Hinayana tenets. So he became a great scholar in all of those. So Depa Tarepanangi Jinna Lasopa. So Jinlan is talking about taking and giving. And so this is like the Vinaya practices. And Langdorgi Cha Tramo Nam Kyang. So all the things to adopt and to discard, all the most subtle ones. It's really talking here about becoming a scholar in the Vinaya. As I said, in Tibet we have the Mula Savastivardhan, which is the division. The Savastivardhan, the Tamche Yoparmawa, they have seven divisions. So one of them is Shi Tamche Yoparmawa, that's Mula Savastivardhan. And another one is Dharmagupta, the Chobepa. So that's what's spread in East Asia. So most monastics today have come from the Savastivardhan lineage. There is the Mahasamgik one that Atisha had, it actually died out. So he didn't give any ordination in Tibet, and then it didn't go anywhere other than India, I don't think. But then the Theravada, which was part of, the Nedempa itself has divisions, but they go by the name of the Sawa, right? Does that make sense to you? You have the four root schools, and then the division schools, right? So that in what's in East Asia and what's in Tibet, they go by the name of a division as opposed to the root school is Savastivardhan. Among that, there are 7 divisions, one of which is Mula Savastivardhan, one of which is Dharmagupta, right? And so we go by the name of the subdivision, whereas Theravada or Nedempa, that's the name of the overarching school, and then within that they have 3 divisions, which I'm not sure which one is the one that's spread into Southeast Asia. So Tramo Nam Kyang, so all the subtle points of what to adopt and what to abandon. Madrepa Kena, so he knew them without mixing them together. Deta na rang tang shengi depe drupe ta. So then he, in terms of the tenets of one's own and other systems, gyatso tabu parutu zumpe na. So it's like an ocean that he crossed to the far shore in terms of his knowledge of it. Lugi dempe ne tamche chinchimbalopar tuksu chupa. So then he comprehended all of the subtle points of the scriptural teachings unmistakenly. So we finished now the Lungi Yonten, right? So we had Mangdu Kempa, which I said really I think should be Mandu Tupa. Mandu Tupa, he heard much, and then the Lungi Yonten Nipitsul. So now Dupe Yonten Nipitsul, the way he found qualities of realization. So Chir, Gyewe Lungi Tempa Tamche, Denu Rinpoche Sumdu Dube. So all the teachings of the Buddha, they generally are condensed into the 3 Pitakas, 3 baskets of teachings. Dupe Debayan, Labo Rinpoche Sumdu Dugoso. So also likewise, the real qualities of realization are condensed into the 3 higher trainings. Right? So you have the Denu Sum is first of all the Due Denu, right? And that corresponds to the Sultram Gilapa, so the Vinaya Pitaka and the higher training in ethical discipline. And then the Dode Denu, so that's the Sutra Pitaka, and then the Tingizin Gilapa, so the higher training in concentration. And then Ngobe Denu, so the Abhidhamma Pitaka, and then the Abhidhamma Pitaka and the Shedra Kilapa, so the training in wisdom. So it's funny, we say Ngipe Deno, I don't know, I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, as I've said, and we say Abhidhamma Pitaka in English, but if you translate it Ngipe Deno, it really should be Abhi Pitaka, not Abhidharma. Ngipa is Abhi, right? And then Chu, it would be Ngipe Chugi Deno, but we don't say that in Tibetan. But in any case, that corresponds to the training in wisdom. Tila Sutragi Lapa Ni. So the training in ethical discipline, thing is in tang sheraki lapa la sope yonen tamchiki dendu. So it's the basis for all the qualities of the concentration and wisdom and so forth. Dendu sona gondrel nga tang chipale ne mangdu ngape na. So from many scriptural teachings and commentaries on them, it's frequently praised as the basis. Tokmar Sutragi Lape wandu chipe tope yonden and never goes so. So first of all, before anything else, you have to be endowed with qualities of realization of ethical discipline. So de la sumle, right? So the point here, of course, qualities of realization, it just means minds, right? So it's not that you have like a realization of emptiness would be quality of realization of wisdom. It wouldn't be ethical discipline. The qualities of realization of ethical discipline just means having the vows, so that you get because the vow. Well, actually, that's a question. Is it a mind? You all know that there's some debate about this. In the Prasangika system, which we're following here, the vow is not a mind. It's a suk. It's a form. The reason. So there's different schools of thought, right? There's the Vaishaka or the Chadamara, who said that it's form. This is in Abhidharma Kosha by Lopaninian. Right? That's very clear. The reason being that the thing it stops is form. So if you want to stop action of killing, because the specifically it's talking about the vows that stop the 10 non-virtues, but specifically the first 7, right? So the first 7 are physical actions, either body or speech. So the thing that stops that also has to be body or speech, because you have a dam. A dam can stop water. It has to be also physical, right? So, but what does it mean that it's physical? There's 2 things. One is when you take the vows, the words you're saying, those are vows. The words of I pledge not to do such and such thing. But then secondly, after that, it's called non-revealing form, meaning that you can't see it. Meaning it's not like an esoteric thing per se. It seems more that it's like this particular person is not doing certain actions. You don't see him not doing them because he's not doing them. Right? So he has the thought, I'm angry at this person, I want to hit them. But there's no bodily movement. The body is just still. He doesn't act on the thought. So that is a form. There's a form there that is something's stopping him from acting in that way. So it's non-revealing because you can't tell. You look at somebody, you can't tell he has the vow not to kill. And maybe if you observe for a long time, but it's not obvious. So that's a non-revealing form. So then the other schools, the Tautantrika and the Chittamatra and the Zavadantrika, Madhyamaka, they all say that it's mind, it's the intention, the mental factor of intention, that to keep a particular pledge or a particular vow, which is similar with karma, because it's the same thing. That for Abhidharma Kosha, for Vaibhashika, karma is it can be body or speech or mind. Whereas for the other three schools that I mentioned, it's only the mental factor of intention is karma. So the action of really we say vow in English. It's not actually correct. I was talking about that in the introduction I've been writing to Rinpoche's book, because what we say in Tibetan is dompa, right? Dompa is restraint. So it means restraining yourself from a particular action. And then you have chepa. Chepa is the rules. But in Vinaya, we make it very clear that the chepa is actually the speech of the Buddha. It's the Buddha said, don't do that. That's the chepa. So you don't have the chepa in your continuum. When it says cheden gigansak, a person who's endowed with the rules, out of the chepa. But that means that they've pledged to uphold them. It doesn't actually literally mean they have those in their continuum. What they have is the dompa, the restraint from a particular action. So for these other schools where it's mind, it's the intention to restrain from an action. They say sung sem, the intention to guard oneself. So that is, we say vow in English, but it doesn't quite line up, right? But then we have prasangika. So this actually, I had some doubt about this. I just asked recently my teacher, because I was wanting to put this into the introduction. I wasn't sure why in prasangika it's again form. Right? So in Vaibhashika it's form, and then the other ones it's not form, and then again in prasangika it's form. He said the reason is that it actually, Chandrakirti, for the most part, he follows, in terms of conventional truth, he mainly follows the Vaibhashika system. Because Nagarjuna does. Because when Nagarjuna was teaching, there was no Chittamatra system or Sautantrika system. So in terms of the conventional truth, he just, in terms of things that he was not disputed with, he just followed that. He just adopted whatever they said in terms of how things exist conventionally. But he rejected certain aspects of it that didn't accord with the philosophy of emptiness. So in terms of the vows being formed, this is just adopted as, that this is okay. There's no reason that is contradictory to the teachings on emptiness. And actually, I think it does make a lot more sense in the end, especially with karma. That an action of karma is not just your mind doing it, but your physical action is also karma. And also it said that because in the prasangika system, the way that karma functions, the way that karma is stored, it doesn't have to be a mind. It's possible for a physical action to make an imprint that can ripen later. Because they have the idea, we say, the Tsongkhapa says, the jikpa, the disintegratedness is a functioning thing. It's a very different way of understanding how imprints are carried on the mind. So it can work with physical actions being karma. Whereas in the other schools, you can't make an imprint on the mind with the physical action. It has to be the mental intention. So that's just a brief aside, but it's good to think about what vows, what they are, what restraints are, as I said. So he said, the training in ethical discipline. So here it's Sosa Tarpe Dompa, right? You're having the Sosa Tarpe Dompa Chok, the supreme Pratimoksha vow. So that's talking about the Gelong vow. Sosa Tarpe Dompa Chok, Tandempe Tsul, the way he was endowed with that. Dupele. Kuni Nientu Tekpe Gorjugne. So you have entered into the door of the Hinayana, or the Shervakayana, actually. Shervakayana. Tsultram Yagna Shindu Sungzeching. So then you guarded your vow, your discipline, your ethical discipline, like the tail of a yak. Right? Why do you guard your ethical discipline like the tail of a yak? Anyone know? Okay, so this also I asked one of my teachers, because this was in Rinpoche's book. He said that in Tibet there was the yak's tail. The yak was very protective of its tail. So if you tried to cut off the hair of the tail of a yak, they would get angry. So likewise, you want to be very protective of your vows. Sangchu pel tang dempe gelong chok. So you became a bhikshu, a supreme bhikshu endowed with celibacy. Sangchu pel, glorious celibacy. So I prostrate to you the elder holder of Vinaya. And again, elder, Nedin. So literally means very stable, or stable abider. Somebody who's been ordained for a long time. So she yonsu zopa gelong idonpa nune. Nu is to take the vows, right? To become a vessel for them. So you took the vows of a complete gelong. Ngatsila chakpe yagi. So a yak that's very protective of its tail, or attached to its tail. Ngama rere jingla topa na. Topa na nginpe soktang trawa tong neyang soktang tude ngamachik tupatar. So ngimpa is a hunter, right? So even if he saw that there was some danger to his life from a hunter, he would guard his tail to be caught off from the hunter. So I think the point is that he'd guard his tail even more than he guarded his own life. So if he had the danger of being attacked by the hunter or having his tail cut off, he'd guard the tail. Kelampe LAM.RIM.CHE.MO Tachimo. So no need to speak of the great basis of the training that you've undertaken. So LAM.RIM.CHE, right, the basis of training. LAM.RIM.CHE is the chepa. It's the same thing I mentioned before. So this is the rules, right? I mean, chepa means formulated. It's the past tense of chu, which is related to the word chu, like dharma. But it's the past tense, like chuma mayimpa. You know this term, uncontrived. Right, so chepa is something which is contrived. Somebody made it. The Buddha made these rules. They didn't just come out of nowhere. So the LAM.RIM.CHE, they're the basis of training. LAM.RIM.CHE chamo rere yang soktan done sungpe. So every individual subtle basis of training, he guarded like his life. So in that, Neden Dua Jimbo Chempo Gyurde. So he became a great holder of Vinaya, an elder. She do pataro. So as it says in the praise. So now, so we had the three qualities of the Sulchungi Lapa, right? Of the base of the the training in ethical discipline. So there was the three vows is what it's talking about. You have the Pratimoksha vow, the Bodhisattva vow, and then we'll have the mantric vow after. So again from the praise. Kiani paro chimpe gorjugne. So then you entered into the Paramitayana. Lakpe sampa nambar dak yurching. So then you generated a pure altruistic wish. Janju tugi jona mitonwa. So through your heart of bodhicitta, without not abandoning beings, loden ningje chenla chakselo. So I prostrate to the compassionate one with a great mind. Loden. Right, Loden just means endowed with the mind, but it means a bodhisattva. It's another word for a bodhisattva, the intelligent ones. Shezubatar, so as it said, Jampata Ningje Tsawa Chenki Janteki Sem Jongwen Damba Mampotan. So the bodhicitta, which is rooted in love and compassion. You trained your mind in that in many ways. And also Damba Mampo, so much instruction. Kepardu Serling Patene. So especially you or he relied upon his teachers, Tharlingpa, was it Dharmakirti of Sumatra, or he was he was in Sumatra, right? Today we call it Indonesia, but it wasn't called Indonesia then. That's actually recent. So in the island of Sumatra, he traveled there. Titsun Jampatang Jampeyang ne tokme tang shiwala gyupe damba chokla rindu jampale. So the lineage of instructions from Jitsin Jampa, or from Maitreya, that's talking about the extensive lineage. That's what we study in Parchin here, right? Through a Sangha. And then from Manjushri. Through Shantideva, right? So really through Nagarjuna, but then later through Shantideva. So because Sherlingpa had taken these lineages, although maybe we'll get to this. But Atisha, his I think he had 158 teachers, they say. But there's two main ones were Serlingpa for the vast lineage, the practice lineage, and then Vidya Kokila for the profound lineage of wisdom, which had come from Chandrakirti. So usually we say Shandadeva is is part of the profound lineage. That's how it is when we have the Lama Chopa. But I think here it's talking about that he was also a holder of the vast lineage, because this is where he took the teachings on bodhicitta, right? So again from the praise. Rondon Yawar Dorne Shengi Dun Lurde Deni Dagi Lama La. So you Rondon Yawar, you cast aside your own benefit. And then as for others, you took up enthusiastically the benefit of others. Lurjepa. Dagi Lama La. So my Lama. Shejong Watar. Dakpe Shen Chepe Dantaki Sem Tukla Trumshing. So you generated in your mind bodhicitta that cherishes oneself more than others. It's an unusual construction. Dakpe Shen. It means it's like Dakle Shen. So more than oneself, others. Dakpe Shen Chepe. Monbe sem te kundu trampe drupe sem donde sempe chupa la pochela. So monbe sem, right? The aspiring bodhicitta, then de trangpa. So that was induced by that, and the drupe sem, the engaging bodhicitta. Donde sempe chupa la pochela. So in the great wave deeds of the bodhisattvas, lo par kelangpe de sudrawe la pala. So after having so Jesudroa here, right? Jesudroa can mean go after, but it also can mean pervade, right? Like J-Cap, Jesudroa Cap. So it's those who are training, training in those, it pervades all of the trainings. The trainings of a bodhisattva are pervaded by taking the Kelampa, right? So accepting to train in the ways and deeds of bodhisattvas. Lope Chupa Sangbo, and so the wonderful deeds of the trainees. Gyelse Namgi Chepe Samle Midawa Zedo. Right, so Gyelse Namgi Chepe. So the Chepe Tsam, right? So Chepa I mentioned is contrived or made, it's the rule. And Tsam is the boundary, right? So the Chetsam means the boundaries of the rules, what you can and what you can't go out of. You don't want to go beyond that, or you break the rule. So of the bodhisattvas, Gyalze. Le Midawa, so not passing beyond the boundaries. Midawa Zedo. So that's okay. So that's Janjuki, the bodhisattva vows. So now Dorje Tekpe to Odonpadandemba. So the way he was endowed with the Vajrayana vows. Topale Kyuni Dorje Tekpe Gorshubne. So you entered into the door of the Vajrayana. Ranglar Zigjing. So you visualize yourself as a deity. Dorje Tuktang Dan. And then you're also endowed with the mind of the Vajra mind. Nyaljer Wanjuk Avadutipa. So the great yogi Avadutipa. So Avaduti is the central channel, right? But his name is Avadutipa, the practitioner of the central channel. Bebe Tuljuk Zela Chakselo. So Bebe Tuljuk, like the Tuljuk is austerities, right? But Bepa, so hidden austerities. He was just hiddenly doing this. So that you did this. Zela Chakselo, I prostrate to you. Shezum Patar. Rangi Lutar Zikbe Kewerim Patar. Or Rangi Lar. So Rangi Lar Zikbe Kewerim. So the generation stage where you see your own body as a deity. Dorje Tuk Zokberim. So Dorje Tuk here, the Vajra mind is talking about the completion stage. Zobe Rimbe Tingi Zin Tan Dempe. So endowed with that samadhi, that concentration. Naljubet So Shechir Dojing. So generally we praise him as the chief among yogis. Kabardis was especially Chepet Samle Meidawar. So again, he did not go beyond the boundaries of the rules. Damsik Sulshindu Sumaya. So although he was perfectly guarding the Samaya, Damsik Dibele Trentang Jejin Dembayi Suchum Mahi Sujim Mayan Imedze. So Trendangation, right? Both mindfulness and introspection, endowed with those, and Sujim Mayan Imedze. Your mind did not turn towards what is not ethical. Bahyo Trendan Yugirme, so endowed with conscientiousness and without deceit and guile or hypocrisy. So you were not stained by the faults of downfall. So tuwe niepe kyumago. It's damsik, right? So damsik is samaya. Right? So damsik, it could be taken as like holy word, holy oath, right? Sik word, and then dam, like solemn oath. Although I noticed when I was looking for the etymology in one of the dictionaries, I think Rangjung Yeje, they had that there's one etymology. I don't know if it has any basis in the Sanskrit, but because the word Sikh in Tibetan can mean burn, right? So it's like that. It's dam Sikh. It's like it's solemnly burned into your mind stream, and then if you don't guard them, then it burns you in hell. That's one etymology. But I think the samaya in Sanskrit, it has more this idea of a pledge, right? So Shesum Bataro. De tar domba sungit sulchungi lapa nam. So all the trainings of the three vows, right? 3 sets of vows, 3 restraints. Kelambala Paul sam mimpar. So not only was he courageous to take all of those vows, Jitar Kelampe Jesu Dronde. So in the way he had taken them, he followed after that. Shebet Samlin Midawar Zungshin. So he guarded it without going beyond the boundaries. Giela Jungze Denayam. Giela. I think Gia shouldn't have the bow. No? Gia is like, it's the same as the thumb. Gia is the boundary, or the like the stake that marks the boundary. So it's often used as like if you don't go beyond the Gia, go beyond the boundary. Because with the bow, it's 100. But it's saying if he did go slightly beyond the boundary, it doesn't make much sense to say if he did go slightly beyond 100. So if you slightly went beyond the boundary, Nyoa Nyoa Rangi Chichugi Choke. So quickly he applied the remedy, or I say, what is it? Chicho in English, what is it? So it's like correcting, right? There's a particular word for it. That we say at the end, the sojong, the right of remedy. I think maybe we say remedy. So yeah, he quickly applied. So if it was the bodhisattva vow, if there was the pratimoksha vow, then he'd do the appropriate remedy for that, or the bodhisattva vows and the tantric vows, they each have different remedies. Choka, right? So rite or a ritual. Dakbar chepe, so dakbar chepe, right? To purify. Dakbar chepe nabar tawadini. So such his biography of this way. Dambar tawadini. Surnaki ne shepe kepe nam garwa kepe nabar tawa. So it's a biography that generates joy in the scholars or the great practitioners who know all the points of the teachings, right? He was following as it's supposed to be done. Jeber chula, so know this. Damba nangi jesu labar chao. So all of you who are excellent people in the future, then please train in the same way as he did. Tingi zingi lapal tam dembala nile. So that was the way he was endowed with the qualities of ethical discipline, right? So now the training in concentration. Tun mawani, so the general, I think common. So that's because we have common concentration that both Buddhist and non-Buddhist have, like common binding. Jinegi gone sem so through calm abiding, then his mind became pliant, or say lezuroma, so suitable to be put to work, right? Nijing. Tumo moyepe ting is ingilapani. So then the uncommon kind of concentration, kiwir dempa shindu dempa ngade. So he had a very stable generation stage, and that kind of concentration. So so it's talking about a particular kind of tantric practice, Ripatulshi Kichopa, Druk for 6 or for 3 years. Right, so let me check. I don't have that. The deeds of proficient conduct is what it has. Ripa Tulshuk is a footnote. Okay, so we have Demologer Rinpoche. He says that the Ripa Tulshuk is the conduct of a higher tantric practitioner that is so contrary to that of ordinary persons that the practitioner appears to be crazy. Okay, so that's what Ripa Tulshuk. It really just what says austerities of awareness or of the Rikpa might here be the tantric understanding of Rikpa, right, the primordial mind. So that the person abides in that, and then they engage in behavior that accords with that primordial mind, but is in accord with ordinary behaviors. So for 6 or 3 years, he engaged in that. And then they'd say Ugyen du Kandroma Namgi. So in Ugyen, right, in Odiana, then all the Dakinis, Lu Lampa Sene. So he heard their songs, right? Lu Lampa Sene Tugla Zuwayang Yodu. So then held them in mind, like he memorized them, basically the songs of the Dakinis. So that's what happened when you gain concentration. A friend of mine, when he was young, he went to a teacher and asked him, I don't know exactly what teacher, but a Tibetan Lama, and asked him, how do you know when you've done enough concentration meditation? And he said, when you can hear the celestial dakinis, then you know you've got enough concentration. So Sheraki Lapa Tan Dembala Tumawani. So next, the endowed with the qualities of wisdom, or wisdom training. Common wisdom. Shilak Sundudrelwe Laktongi Ting is engaging, right? So we found the concentration that is a unification of common body and special insight. So that's important to see, right? It's tunmawa, it's common, because sometimes people think that special insight only means meditation and emptiness, because mainly I think because they read the LAM.RIM.CHE.MO and the special insight section is about emptiness, but that's a mistake. Right? The Vipassana in Sanskrit, or Laktong in Tibetan, it's used for both Buddhist and non-Buddhist practices. Laktong means the ability that when you're in a concentrated state, that when you analyze an object, it doesn't disturb your concentration, but actually enhances your bliss of absorption. So you need that in order to achieve the higher concentrations, like the jhanas. So non-Buddhists definitely have to have that as well. But then uncommon, right? So it's interesting to see. It's saying that the generation stage is about concentration, and then the completion stage is about wisdom. Zobe rimbe ting is in keper chen yepa. So you found a special kind of concentration of that. So from the praise, sangak tepe shungtarna, joy lamla yimper zil. And so according to the tantric system, then it's clear one is a path of preparation, right? Because in the path you achieve the generation, the completion stage during the path of preparation, right? If you line up the paths and grounds, like we study in Salam here with Tantra, then if you Kirim, the path of generation is during the path of accumulation, and the path of preparation coincides with the completion stage, right? Because when you achieve first of all the isolation of body, which is the first of the completion stage, then you achieve the path of preparation at that same time, and then you achieve the isolation of speech, isolation of mind, and then you have the example clear light, which you get at the end of the isolation of mind. That's still the path of preparation, and then you get the illusory body. That's still the path of preparation, and then you have the meaning clear light. Then you have the path of seeing. Right? So most of the completion stage is on the path of preparation. So Dembala Chawar Zepalani. So there's two ways in which he enacted the deeds of the teachings, right? So first we had Rik Puntu Sopa Nyepetsul, and then Yonten Nyepetsul, right? So the way he was born in a good lineage, and then the way that he found qualities, and then how he enacted the benefit of the teachings. So Gyagardu Zetsul Tam Budu Zetsul. So two. One the way he did it in India, and the way he did it in Tibet. So Damboni Pel Dorje Dan, so in Bodh Gaya, Jandu Chimpo Potrongdu in the great Mahabodhi stupa, probably. Potrong is a palace, but the Mahabodhi palace. Muteki Mawa Nyebala, so to Nyebalen Sumdu, so say, it's not very politically correct, but to read the literal meaning here, it says a wicked propounder of Tirtaka tenets, right? A non-Buddhist tenet. Len Sundo, so 3 times, Chuki Pamparzeni, 3 times he defeated him in debate. Sakiki Tempa Zungshing, and then he held the teachings of the Buddha. So you might be saying, that the non-Buddhist then adopted the teachings of the Buddha because he was defeated in debate. That's how it was supposed to be done in India. So Rangi Dempa, Gongi Dempa Layang. So in terms of the teachings of the higher and lower, the Hinayana and Mahayana of one's own schools, Gongok Dokpadan Lopa Dopatan, Madopadan Lopa Dopadan, Tetsuv Gidrima, right? Those are the 3 non-realizations. So not realizing, having a wrong understanding, and having doubt, right? Tetsuv Gidrima Nyepa. So all these stains of these negative stains, Trimanam Selne, so cleared them away, and Dembra Gebert Zebe. So then he enacted the deed of the teachings, right? Deba Tamchigi Kyam Chok Rimebar Tsugi Gendu Zinde. So Deba Tamchigi Kyam. So then Chok Tsugi Gendu. So it's saying that all of the teachings were held as a crown jewel without bias, right? Let me just check here again. Yeah, that's okay. So it's a bit on odds construction, but it's saying that all of the teachings. So Depa here is not the school, but it's the person who adheres to the school, right? Deba. So the people who adhered to all the different schools without bias, they held him as a crown jewel. So that he, whatever school of Buddhist thought they all saw him as a great scholar. Dubele, so again from the praise, Jandit Chimpo Potrongdu, so in the Mahabodhi stupa, Tamche Dujing Sopana, so many people gathered. Rangtang Shengi Debahi, Drupta Nyenpe Gut Kyun. So all the opponents in debate of the wrong tenets of both one's own and other schools. Singing Aro Drakiki. So with his lion's roar, Tamchegini Lepagyam. So he ground their brains. It's meaning that he defeated them in debate. Lepagyam. It's a way of describe. It's a word that literally means that to grind the brain, but it means that you defeat somebody in debate. Shedang Odendapurini. So in Odadapuri again, the monastery. Ranjung Gachak Chetang Sum. So Rabjung, 102.5 monks. So Rabjung Gachak Chetang Sum. So it might be Gachak Che, so half 103. Vikram Malshila, so maybe 53. Let me keep losing the page here. Check that. 253. Okay. 250 monks. Gachak Chetang Sum. Okay, so that's Gachak Chetang Sum. It's an ancient way of talking about numbers. So Gachak Chetang Sum, right? That means 100, half, and 3. right? So it actually refers to 250. So that's what it is. Che Tong Sum means 2.5. This is good for you to know when you're reading Pecha. It can be very confusing. Sum Tong Che means 3.5. Right? Che Tong Sum means 2.5. Half and 3 means 2.5. 3.5 means what we say in English, 3.5. So Che Tong Sum is meaning 2.5, and then 100. So 2.5 times 100. So 250. That's what it's saying. Che Tong Sum. And in Vikram Mashila, right? Rabjun Gachak Malong Tsam. So not quite 100. Malong is like not quite, not filling. Not quite 100. Sawai Deshi Samwar Shuk. So those of all the different schools, the four schools, the four root schools that we talked about before. Dewe Kengdrek Kyumidze. So you didn't have this haughtiness, right? You didn't demonstrate haughtiness. Mangala Yugini, so in Magadha, right? Magadha in Bihar. Neshi Malu Tamchigi, so the all the important points. Tamchigi, Dompe Korni, Jipa Shiboi. So the four followers of the Buddha, the Dompe Kor, right? The four retinue, meaning the monks, nuns, lay people, lay men, lay women. Dompe Kor Shipani, Kungi Tsugi Norbukyo. You became the crown jewel of all of them. Right? Kyuni Depa Chugigi. So now we have the 18 schools, right? As I said, that's the Sawai Deshi is the four root, and the 18 is just a way of dividing them, right? You have 7 of the Musavasti and then 5 of the Mahasamkika, and then 3 and 3 of the Zavira, the Nedempa, and of the Mankora. So that becomes 18. Kungi Chila Shupena. So then you became a scholar in all of those. Is the point? Kungi Chila, all of the general teachings of them. Tamchi Gini Longyan Len. So you also took teachings from all of them. Tamchi Gi Longyan Yen Chejungwatar. So they all took teachings from you. Tamchi Gi. So they all took teachings from you, of the ones from the different schools. So he was a great scholar and teacher in Tibet. And then Podazet, so then how we did this in Tibet. In India he was a great scholar, and now he went to Tibet. So La Lama, Gupungi, so I talked about this last time. La Lama, right, this is Yeshi and Zhongjup these two Tibetans. Yeshi was a king of a small area. Kubon means uncle and nephew, right? So the uncle Yeshi and his nephew Zhongjup Lotsawa Gyatson Senge Tang Naktul Sutram Gyawani Rinpoche Gyagudit Zangde. So they sent these people to India, these Lotsawas. So Gyatsondru Senge. Sondru Gya Sonseng means Gya is the name of the place he's from. So Gya Lotsawa. We see this sometimes in Vinaya, his name come up. And Sundru Sunseng means Sondru Senge. And then Naksu, right? Naksu Lotsawa I talked about last time. Naksu Lotsawa, whose name was Sultram Gyalwa. Ni Rinpoche Gyagadu Zangde. So Zang is like to send them there. Beba Chempo Yana Yandu Chendrangwe. So with great effort, again and again, they invited him. Chendrang. Chandip Ugi, so Chandip Ringla, Ugi Ringla, Chendrangde. So again he invited him. Ngari Dudu Chak Pepana. So then when he came to Ngari finally, Sangiki Tempe Dr. Zepa, so then he purified the Buddha's teachings. Sangiki Dr. Zepa. So they requested him to purify the Buddha's teachings. Dogaki ne tamche dune, so condensing all the points of Sutra and Tantra. Nyamsu lempe rimpe. Drilwa. So drill is like to roll together. Right? So taking all the important points of practice, all the stages of practice, and put them together into this text. Jandalam Gidronme, right? The Bodhi, the lamp for the path to enlightenment. Zepal Sokpe Gone. So then he wrote that and did other activities also. So he did many vast activities. Deang Ngari Sut Lo Sung. So he stayed 3 years in Ngari, in western Tibet. Nye Tang Du Lo Gu. So Nye Tang, 9 years in Nye Tang, which is also in Sang, in the west. Utsang, right? So then now finally in U, and also Utsang, the center. Shendu, other places in Utsang is the point. So other than Ngari and Lietang, because those are both in Sang, but other parts of Utsang. Shendu Lo Ngai, but so for 5 years, Kyoparan Demba Nam La, so all those fortunate ones, Dongagi Shung Damba Dangak Malu Perden. So he taught all the instructions to all of them. Dembesu Nupanam, so where the teachings had declined, Sardu, so he started them again. And so Chungse Yupanam, so the point is they completely declined. So it's like now starting them again, but those where there was still a little bit left. So Chungse Yupanam, he increased it. Lopa Dope Trime Pakpanam, so those polluted by the stain of wrong views. Lek Barselde, he cleared that away. Dembo Demboshe Trimbarang Jarwad Zedo. So then he made this teachings without saying again. So how much more do we have? It's quite a bit, I think. Yeah, so maybe we'll stop here. If you have any questions, please tell me. Otherwise, we do the closing prayers.
The 18 schools you mentioned,
Yeah.
are those the same as the 18 schools of the Chiramawa, the Vaibhashikas?
Yeah, they're all Vaibhashika schools, all 18 of them. That's right. 18 Nikayas, they call them.
So, his teacher that he traveled to meet in
Oh yeah, Serlingpa.
Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
How did he know about Sri Lanka?
I'm not sure how. I think that the story is that when he heard his name, he immediately had the sense that this had to be his teacher. But how famous he was in India, I'm not sure. There's a lot of. I mean, you may have heard some of the stories. I don't know if you know much about Serlingpa. There's a few things about him. One is he was a mind-only school, right? So this is used as one of the two examples that we sometimes see in the text of the teacher. The student actually does not accept the philosophical system of the teacher, right? The other example is with Rendawa and Tsongkhapa, right? But it's used as an example of how he still practiced perfect guru devotion even without actually accepting what the person said in terms of his philosophical system. He recognized that he had this lineage of the practice of bodhicitta. And then whenever he talked about him, it says his eyes would become moist because he remembered how compassionate he was. But he was able to maintain pure vision of him by seeing it as he was manifesting this form as what was suitable to disciples. So I don't have to actually accept his philosophical tenets. I accept that he was teaching this particular teaching because that was what was right. But he, in terms of what he received from him, it was mainly these teachings on the exchanging self and other, right? Which is why it's saying coming from Shanti Deva, that the system of exchanging self and other, and also the 7-point cause and effect, right? So we say in Tibet that the 7-point cause and effect, they came to Tibet from Atisha, right? Because that's I think the main thing he was maybe taking from him.
You see that from somebody.
What's that? From Serlingpa, yeah. The other thing about Serlingpa is when you study Parchen, right? We have the 21 commentaries on Ngundagen of them. So he wrote one of them, right? What's it called? Dokai Nangma, illumination of the difficult points. It's the same name as Khedrubje's text, Dokai Nangma. And so Tsongkhapa quotes him sometimes. The Dokai Nangma, actually, it's a commentary on Haribhadra. Right? You have Haribhadra's text, the Dharma Dumsel, and there's two main sub-commentaries on that, one by Dharma Mitra and one by Serlingpa. So Tsongkhapa quotes him, but he rejects him quite frequently. Not always, but he tends to be an object of, he didn't quite interpret this right. But even at the same time, it's the lineage Lama, so you see that, maybe have the same view, that this is one way of seeing it, but we don't necessarily see, because Tsongkhapa very rarely just actively criticizes somebody. He does so really with Abhyakara. There's one. I've always found this a bit odd. I guess I asked Geshe-Ngo and Sangye about this. I didn't quite get a good answer, but Abhyakara in Sertring he rejects him a lot, and not just saying he was wrong, but saying he was actually jealous of Haribhadra, and that's why he said these kind of things. But then we have the secret biography of Tsongkhapa, and he had the visions of all the Indian masters, and one of them was Abhyakara. He received a lot of tantric teachings from him. So I asked Gengamon Sangye, he said, well, it's a similar that it was just in terms of his philosophical viewpoint, he was rejecting it, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the guru-disciple relationship. But then to go so far as to say he was jealous of Haribhadra and he was trying to get his own text published or whatever. I don't quite understand how that works. Anyway, so it's your question. He heard about him and he felt that's what we needed to take teachings on bodhicitta, and they say it took a year to get to Sumatra. I don't know how it took a year in a boat. Yeah. What?
I remember hearing that.
Yeah, it's not that far. It's a very slow boat, or maybe they have to stop frequently. Yeah. Anyway, so then he carried that back, and that's the lineage we have in Tibet of that practice. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay.
From my two collections,
the vast and space that I have amassed from working with effort of this practice for a great length of time, the secret Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom eyes, blinded by ignorance. When I not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. Find the best and complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may clear the darkness from the minds of all beings. With the points of the path as I have discerned them, may I uphold Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, who will ever direction the most precious teachings that not yet spread or once spread have declined, give this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's teach be nourished for a long time. May this graded path to enlightenment completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings who have lived in adversity create conditions for practicing the excellent paths, never be parted any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, May you always be assisted by the mighty ones, and the oceans of prosperity spread everywhere.
So, do you have a copy of the lineage prayer for the LAM.RIM?
In Tibetan or English?
Because
Well, in English it's in the LAM.RIM.CHE.MO prayer book.
it is there, okay.
And in the Tibetan it's in your Sera prayer book, I can show you. Lama sold that.
So we can recite it next week.
Yeah, maybe we can do. Yeah. We can maybe do a part each week because it's very long. We do different parts of it each week. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can bring that.
Great.
Yeah, it's good if we can do it in English. You can learn the prayers in English.
Oh.
Yeah.
I stopped it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Nice.
What?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope it turned out well and I don't have to meddle with
I
you.
should be better than
Yeah.
last time.
Anyway, now I'm in we have an expression in Spanish like I'm in the dance. Like I downloaded the software to get the audio out of the
Voice
thing.
alert. Voice over gestures.
It wasn't me. So yeah, anyway.
What was the problem? The sound wasn't so good last time?
Last time it had two problems. One, the sound, there was a lot of clipping.
Clipping.
Yeah, that's when the gain is, when you record and the mic is too sensitive.
Oh.
It's like you have like bubbles
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And not only that, but it recorded only one channel.